Hey everyone, and welcome to r/Am I the Butthole? By far this channel's favourite sub. Like seriously, if you go into my analytics, Am I the Butthole videos get 2 or 3 times the number of views of pretty much any other video. Honestly crazy, and that's why I keep them coming. Once again, I've searched far and wide for some of the best and most controversial posts from the last week, so let's not waste another second and get straight into this first one by user/snoo75036. I, 50 female, have 3 children, 30 female, 17 male, and 16 female. My oldest has a different father from the other 2, and was obviously fairly grown once her siblings were born. I will admit that during her teen years, my oldest took on a lot of babysitting duties in the house. I worked during the afternoons and evenings, so she would pick the babies up from daycare and watch them until I got home at night. This unfortunately has led my daughter and I to having somewhat of a strained relationship as she's become an adult. She's told me that I used her as a second parent, and that it caused her a lot of stress and stunted her social life during adolescence. I know that I made mistakes as a mother during that time. We were struggling financially, and she always seemed eager to help with the babies. But I shouldn't have taken advantage of her like that. We've discussed it a lot in the years since, and though we still have problems between us, I like to think our relationship has made progress. Since graduating college, my daughter's become a financial consultant with an excellent salary. I'm incredibly proud of her and everything she's achieved. As someone who myself never attended college, and who lived near the poverty line my entire life, it's so rewarding to see my daughter move up in the world. As my younger 2 children have been approaching college, however, I've been beginning to question how I'm possibly going to pay to put them through school. In all likelihood, they'll have to take out heavy student loans. I'd like to avoid this if at all possible. We all know how damaging student debt can be to young people. I approached my oldest and asked her whether she might be willing to contribute somewhat to her siblings' tuition. I emphasised that she could absolutely say no, or we could discuss the possibility of us paying her back over a period of years. I said multiple times that I was only asking because I wanted to consider all options. But if she wasn't comfortable with it, I would drop it and look for alternatives. My daughter became very upset with me. She said that it was entirely inappropriate for me to ask, and that the only reason I would ever consider asking is because I've always considered her a second parent rather than a child. She said that my asking her this has shown that I've never learned from my parenting mistakes when she was a teenager. But I really don't think it's the same thing. Like honestly, she's rich. She has the money. I don't think it's absurd, but I might ask her if she's willing to do me a favour for the sake of her siblings. Especially since I made it very clear, I wouldn't be angry or upset if she said no. Thoughts? And here's an interesting edit that I think maybe makes some difference, maybe not, but I'll include it just in case. The oldest was put through school by her father. He lives across the country and would visit occasionally when she was growing up, though he never had custody. He offered to pay for her schooling as a sort of apology for not being more present when she was young. I don't see him, but they have some amount of contact nowadays. The younger 2 have the same father. He just ran off after my youngest was born. Haven't heard anything from him since. I couldn't tell you where he might be right now. Yeah, because I was very curious how your oldest daughter had gotten through school. It's interesting, it's good that her father is supporting her like that. That is one good bit to this story. But I have got to say, you have no business asking OP for your kids to pay for their siblings' education. I mean, clearly this is a tentative issue between you and your daughter. I will give it to you, you approached the issue very maturely. You weren't demanding, you weren't condescending, and I hope that you made it clear that your daughter wasn't obliged to do this. But at the same time, if you know especially you have this strained relationship on the topic of your younger kids, maybe don't go out and discuss these sort of things if you know it's going to put a strain on the relationship. I don't really want to do it because of the way you approach the issue, OP, but I think I'm going to have to say you're the butthole, because I just don't think it's right to ask for your kids to pay for your other kids' education. If your daughter were to do it, it would have to be an initiative that came from her, something that she decided to do to help her family that's struggling financially. And I'm afraid with the way you've initiated it, that's never going to happen. And here's our next post, mind you, about college money as well, by user/meandadami. My wife and I are fortunate that we've done reasonably well in our lives. Nothing crazy, but very comfortable. We recognise that we're both very lucky and very privileged. We have 2 sons, both good kids. One is a couple of years into college, and is the one who thinks I'm a butthole. We've paid for our son's college. In the US, at a private college, so serious money. We've always been relaxed about college. Would have been supportive if he wanted to do a trade or something else. But he wanted to go to college, and we supported him. Recently, like a lot of college-age students, he's become a real idealist and very progressive. Good for him. He's welcome to think whatever he likes. Where it's become an issue is that when he comes home, he started making increasingly snide remarks about how we don't pay enough in taxes. He has no idea what we pay or don't pay. And that our success is due to privilege and was at the expense of other less fortunate people. I don't particularly object to the comments, I enjoy debate, but he doesn't seem to appreciate the irony that he is benefiting from that privilege and seems content to collect on it while doing little to try and support those he believes need it. This came to a head recently, where following some of his comments, I said I completely agreed with him, and we needed to do more. He seemed really pleased, until I followed it up by saying that to do that, we would take 75% of his tuition money, and instead donate that to a charity providing scholarships to disadvantaged people. In order to pay for the rest of his tuition, he would need to get loans, or pick up extra work, or work nights to help fund it. He was mad. I tried to be very explicit that this was not to try and punish him, or to get him to change his views, but that it was hypocritical of him to look down on our privilege while ignoring his own, and that he needed to be prepared to also accept a cost for trying to address that inequality. He thinks I'm 100% the butthole. My wife thinks I'm maybe 50% the butthole. Reddit to be determined. And here are a few updates which should hopefully clear up this post a bit. It's hard to respond to everyone, but I appreciate the perspectives. Nothing's been taken yet. This was a, well, you want to help, this is what you can do to help. What I hope to do is have a conversation with him about how he can help, and the relative merit of having some kind of debt or understanding of the cost of what he wants to do. I'd like to work him on what he could give up without really hurting himself in the future. Work with him on where we could send the remainder, work with him on loans, budgeting, and etc. One of my concerns is that he doesn't have a high enough level of financial literacy, and I would hope to use this to help with that. I really want to get him to the point where it's something we both agree with though, and he can also see the benefit in. And for me, it's one of those weird ones where I want to say no buttholes here, or a slight everyone sucks here, though I do reckon I am leaning towards no buttholes here. One comment pointed out really well that in going to college, OP's son is getting new perspectives on life, and he's slowly integrating them and trying to form his own worldview, so I don't really want to call him a butthole for developing his own views on things. At the same time, I feel like OP isn't trying to be a butthole. He's trying to promote healthy debate, show his son that his words will have consequences, and also try to show his son that he can help the issues that he's trying to support. So overall, I would call this a very good learning experience. OP isn't abandoning his son, and I think he's doing a damn good job in teaching him. So, no buttholes here. Great work, OP. This is a story that I've really enjoyed. And here's our next post by user/middlebrotherthrowaway12. I'm one of 4 siblings, 2 boys and 2 girls. We're all between 30 and 42 years old, and 3 of us are married, except for one middle brother. Middle brother has always had problems in school and socially, and when he got older, it was being able to keep a job and pay his bills. Our mother would always guilt the rest of us into taking care of our middle brother financially once we all moved away. We all agreed to equally contribute so the burden wouldn't fall to our parents who wanted to retire. Our oldest brother always hated this idea and resented middle brother for being able to get away with being lazy his whole life, and blames our mother for lowering the expectations for this one sibling and always calling him her sweet sensitive boy. The rest of us were never able to get away with the same things middle brother did, especially older brother, who had to do everything for him growing up. About a year ago, my sister and I stopped equally contributing to middle brother due to financial difficulties, but didn't tell our oldest brother. He and his wife make significantly more money than us, and figured it wouldn't make any difference financially to them, and didn't want middle brother to get literally nothing. Anyway, during a family Zoom call, our mother casually brings up that her sweet sensitive boy needs more help than he's been given from his family. And it came out that older brother is the only one paying. And he blew a gasket. He called us opportunists, liars, con artists, and lots of other things. And finally said, F you people. And got off the call and hasn't spoken to any of us since. Not even our parents. He's missed 2 parents, and middle brother is freaking out. My parents and I tried reaching out to his wife, because middle brother will be kicked out of his apartment soon unless we pay. She makes as much money as older brother, if not more, and can easily pay, but refused. She called us crazy for even asking her to go against her husband like that. Now she's stopped taking our calls. We're out of options and are considering driving the 3 states away to confront older brother into helping his family. My own husband thinks this is a bad idea, and that we should let middle brother sink or swim at this point. Before you ask, middle brother was tested extensively years ago, and found he was neurological typical, but sensitive. Hence, my mother's nickname. Would I be the butthole if I drove all the way down to physically confront older brother? Wow, I want to say, basically everyone is the butthole here, except older brother. We've been through this already today about siblings paying for other siblings. I mean, if your mother is willing to shelter one of her kids and place them above the rest, she should be the one willing to pay for it. And I mean, you guys, you 3 siblings, you had a plan in place. You had an agreement in place. And 2 of you stopped following that agreement. And I mean, I get why your older brother's mad. I don't think you'll be seeing any money from him anytime soon. So yeah, P, I've got to say, you're the butthole, your mum's a butthole, your sister's a butthole, lots of buttholes in this post, and I mean, we really do need to see a few of those from time to time, because they just make our life on this sub so much more entertaining. And here's our next post by user/sassymumx3. My husband and I have 3 children together. They're 9 female, 7 female, and 4 male. For the most part, my husband is a loving father, and he absolutely dotes on our girls. Our son is another story. He's very sensory sensitive, and the littlest of things can set him off like a scratchy shirt tag or an extreme temperature. I've tried to educate myself on sensory issues and make accommodations for him. But my husband is not willing to do so. He thinks that I baby him and enable his bad behaviour. There have been times my husband has insisted I force our son to stay outside despite his obvious discomfort in the heat, or make him take his shoes off at the beach even though sand overwhelms him. Both times resulted in total meltdowns. Last weekend, we took a family trip, and it was the last straw. My husband had our girls in the pool, and he was tossing them in. They were laughing and having a good time. My son was in the shallow end with just his lower legs in the water. And my husband thought it would be funny to sneak up behind him and push him into the water. He was wearing a life vest, but the sudden feeling of his head going underwater and his hair becoming wet was too much for him. He was wailing, and I had to get him out of the pool. He had a complete meltdown that lasted over 30 minutes. I took him back to the hotel room to calm him down, and my husband told me I shouldn't have done that. He said that he will never toughen up and stop being a baby if I keep running to his rescue. He yelled at our son for embarrassing him at the pool and refused to allow him ice cream later with the girls. I was furious at his behaviour, so I got on Facebook and ranted about all the times our husband has favoured the girls and made our son feel unloved. Now his mother and sisters are mad at him, and he's mad at me for putting our private life on Facebook. Am I the butthole for publicly shaming my husband on Facebook for how he treats our son? Yeah, look, I'm gonna have to go with everyone sucks here. I mean, on the one hand, your husband's behaviour is unacceptable, but on the other hand, Facebook isn't the place to take this issue. This is something you need to sort out in a different setting. I feel like, I don't know who to recommend you go see, whether that be a therapist, a medical sort of doctor, who can help with your son's sensory issues, or maybe a mixture of both. You need to work out what your son's condition is and why he has these issues and what you can do to help him with it. And you also need to work out your husband's behavior, make him accept that his son has these issues, and help him get through it instead of just pushing him into pools and telling him to toughen up. Hey, maybe there is some merit to that, but clearly not the way your husband is doing this. And here's our next post by user/SawFthesis. I'm 36 and have a 16-year-old daughter. I have full custody of her because her mum, 40, had a mental breakdown and has been in and out of rehab. This January, I started dating my girlfriend, 21 female. Then quarantine happened, and that time apart made me realise that I wanted to spend my life with her. So I proposed in May, and she's moved in. Our wedding is in October. Since then, my daughter has been a nightmare. She and my younger sister, 25, keep calling my fiancé the kid. My fiancé decides to invite my daughter out to go shopping. She kept trying to set a date, but my daughter kept saying she had an extracurricular activity. So yesterday, when my daughter once again said she was going to practice her serve, I decided to follow her car. She ended up pulling up to a diner, and I realised she was grabbing lunch with my younger sister. I am furious. First, at my sister for enabling toxic behaviour, and second, at my daughter for lying to her stepmom. I ended up taking her keys away from her. Her aunt then calls me and says I had no right to do so. I explained that she would not be getting her car back until she makes an attempt to bond with her stepmom. Am I the butthole for not condoning lying? I just want my fiancé to be accepted into the family. Yeah, right, I think we've been through situations like this before on this sub. Opie, you've got to realise that if you've met someone new you love, it doesn't mean your daughter will love this woman too. Especially considering she is basically your daughter's age. 21 and 16 are pretty damn close. It's likely your daughter is still missing her mother and still hasn't gotten over the fact that you've got full custody and she can't see her mum all the time. I just realised I made it sound like her mother was dead. She isn't, but your daughter spends all your time with you and maybe can't accept the fact yet that you're going to go on and live with another woman. And the way you're going about it is just completely wrong. If anything, it'll just make a greater divide between your daughter and your fiancé. As I often say on this sub, I am not one to give good advice on this sub. You need to get in touch with someone who knows what they're doing. And guys, I think this post will be the last one for the day. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to the channel for Reddit videos 3 times every single week. There have been a few extras coming up lately, so I hope you're enjoying those, but regular upload schedule is still Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. But with that said, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and all I want to do is see you all here next time. See you later, guys.